What is up, everybody? Welcome to Football Diehards Sunday show. Going to go through it game by game. Looking forward to it. I'm here, as always, with Jamie. Jamie, what is up? You're looking forward to today?
Yeah, we've had some significant news since we last spoke on Friday, so this is going to be an interesting one today. There's values all over the place, so excited to break them down.
For sure, cannot wait for it. We're going to talk about it game by game, talk some strategy, talk some lineup construction, all that good stuff. We'll start with the very first game. We have the Colts going against Houston here. So on the Houston side, not a ton sticks out for me. I guess if anything, it'd probably be Brandon Cooks, 5,900. Brandon Cooks is questionable, so we'll see if he does play. But he is expected to play, 5,900. I think he'd be the one guy for me on Houston, if anything. How about you on Houston, and then what's sticking out for you on the Colts side?
Yeah, the Colts are allowing the sixth most fantasy points per game to wide receivers, and Cooks is faster than all of their corners, so I'm fine with that for sure as long as he goes. What do you think of Rex Burkhead? It looks like David Johnson is not expected to play in this one. Do you think that they're just going to still kind of go commit? I mean, they have Royce Freeman now, too. Are you at all interested in Burkhead in any sense?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think they will still be, in some type of committee, but he's very cheap, 4,800. So yeah, John, like you said, Johnson is questionable, and he is unlikely to play. Since he is out, yeah, I don't mind some shots on him. There are some like really cheap guys that I like this week, so I might not be like going crazy on it, but yeah, I think it's something interesting to note.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way there. I mean, he's that 4,800 price tag is good, but he's kind of surrounded both ways by guys I like better. So I don't know if I'll wind up getting there this week. As far as the Colts go, though, I mean, this is Jonathan Taylor central for me. Um, we talked on Friday that you really want one of Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp in cash, and with all the values that have opened up, it's easy to get both at this point now. But if you are still picking one, I think Taylor has got to be the guy. He's facing the Texans, who have given up the fifth most fantasy points per game to running backs. He's averaged almost 7 yards per carry over the last 9 games, and they're favored by 10, I think. So, I mean, after what he did to the Bills and Bucks, I think you need to start him in cash.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's just hard not to play Jonathan Taylor this week. Just what he's been doing, the last several weeks. I think the last bad game he's had was like in week 3, but since then he's been phenomenal. He's been the best running back in the league the past several weeks. So yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor, great matchup against Houston. Last 2 weeks he had tough matchups, but he was able to do great. I think he'd be the only guy I do look for on the Colts side here. And yeah, I'm just making him a focus to get him into my lineup, and I'm able to do so this week because there is a lot of value that does stick out. Even since like Friday, there's been a couple more things open up that we'll talk about. So I mean, the $9,200 price tag has not really been a problem for me to really put him in there. So yeah, I like Jonathan Taylor quite a bit this week.
Yeah, so do I. And it's like you said, there's been so many values that it's really easy to fit him in at that price tag. So we're looking at him as the highest owned running back on the slate. So I would take advantage of that for sure.
Yep, he is coming in at the highest owned, 24.97%, the number one projected highest owned on the slate, and rightfully so, rightfully deserved. Great matchup against Houston. So yeah, for me, it's Cooks on Houston. Not crazy about him, but I am crazy about Jonathan Taylor this week, 9,200. Anything else stick out to you in this game?
No, not particularly. You could play Pittman for sure. I mean, the Texans have given up the eighth most yards to wide receivers. Um, he's definitely the wide receiver one on that team. It's just a matter of how much passing do they do in this game. So, um, but I don't have any problem with that in GPPs. If the Texans somehow manage to keep this close, he could have a monster game against them.
Yep, for sure. But we'll move on to the next game. We have the Giants going against the Dolphins here. We'll start on the Miami side. I mean, not a ton I'm crazy about in this game in general. I don't see myself having a ton of action on this game, but For me on the Miami side, I'm kind of looking at Gaskin. I think he's a solid play, 5,800. He's been getting a lot of touches as of late. Decent matchup against the Giants here. There are some guys that I like more in around this range, so I don't know how much I'm going to get to him, but he is somebody that has stuck out. I really like what I saw from him in the last couple of weeks. And then Jalen Waddle, we talked about on Friday how I think he is, priced accordingly, but he is a pretty solid look here at 6,400. And then you called out Devonte Parker, who is 3,900, and that definitely does open up some value. Parker is active, and he's way too cheap. So those are kind of the three guys I'm looking at. I guess out of those three, I mean, I think the salary savings of Parker for me is probably most intriguing. How about you on Miami? What are you looking at here?
Yeah, everything you said, and with our ownerships, we've got Parker as the highest owned wide receiver, believe it or not, on
Oh,
the
wow.
slate at 3,900. So people are taking that savings, presumably to fit Taylor and Cup, based on the other rest of the ownership. So that to me is a smart move in cash to follow the ownership on that one. I mean, he's had so much time off now. Who knows what his role is going to be, but if he's going to be carrying that kind of ownership in cash, that's certainly something I'm okay going with. GPP, I'd be a little bit more wary just in case he is limited, but he has been Tua's favorite wide receiver when everybody has been on the field there. So I do like him in cash at 3,900 a lot. And you said Gaskin. I agree with you. He's a solid play, but he's also in that range where I like others better than him. But I have no problem playing him in any format either.
Yep, for sure. But yeah, Parker is gaining some ownership, but rightfully so. Like when he has played, he's getting a lot of targets. He has played one, two, three, four, five. I think 5 games this year, and he's had at least 7 targets in all 5 games, and he's 3,900. I mean, that's way too cheap there. So yeah, I think we're on the same page here. Earlier in the year, he's around 5,500, 5,400. So I definitely see why people are taking advantage. We see on the other side, we have the Giants. Yeah, not a ton sticking out for me. We have Tony, who is doubtful. We have Shepard, who is doubtful. I think that makes Galladay and Slayton in play. I'm not too crazy about them, though. Anything you like on the Giants here?
No, unfortunately, Mike Glennon is quarterbacking, and um, Galladay can't get open. I don't really understand it. He's I don't know if it's the game plan on the Giants, but he's been a total bust for them. Slayton has done next to nothing all season. They don't have any. They don't have any really positive things to look at in this one. I mean, Barkley. If you want to look at Barkley and his price tag, he didn't play well last week, but he played 87% of the snaps. So if they do what they should be doing and leaning on him in this game, I think he has a bit of appeal. But he'd probably be the only Giant I'd be looking at in this one. I think we mentioned Glennon at 4,000 really quickly last on Friday at because with that $4,000 price tag, what that can do. I think that was in play, but now that Gardner Minshew is an option, I don't think he is anymore.
Yep, I mean, you totally nailed it there. And yeah, like you said, there's so much value on the slate this week that I really don't think we need to pay down and get Glenn in here. Um, so yeah, I don't really see myself playing him or really any other Giants here. More so on the Dolphins side for me. I really do like Parker at that price tag. I really think he does open up a lot of things. But we'll keep moving on to the next game. We have Minnesota going against Detroit. Yeah, we'll start on the Detroit side, and it's going to open up Jamal Williams with Swift being out. He's somebody that I've been really going to this week, 5,400. Solid matchup against Minnesota. I think he's going to get the majority of the touches here. I think Jamal Williams is definitely way too cheap. We saw that Swift went out early in the Thanksgiving game last week, and Williams was able to have 15 carries, 65 yards, also had 5 targets, 5 receptions, 13.3 DraftKings points. I think Williams is a pretty solid option, and he is getting some ownership. He's last time I looked, he was top 3. I'll double check it, but yeah, Williams would be the guy for me in the Lions, and outside of Williams, that's probably it. How about you on the Lions, and what's sticking out to you on Minnesota?
Yeah, I like Williams a lot. I don't like him as much just because he's on the Lions and they just don't score a lot of points. But yeah, you can't argue with the role he's facing as the lead back with Swift out. I'll mention Josh Reynolds quick. If you do need that punt receiver, he's still looking like he's an option there. Um, at 3,400 if you consider him as the new Lions wide receiver, which he did run as in the Thanksgiving game. He ran the most routes of any wide receiver outside of Hawkinson. So, I mean, if you need someone at 3,400, I think he's viable. I'd rather get up to Parker at 3,900 for sure, but Reynolds is fine. As far as Minnesota goes, Madison is looking like an insanely good play here against Detroit, who's given up the third most fantasy points per game to running backs. I mentioned on Friday that he's had 4 career NFL games of 20 touches or more, and he's averaged 161 yards in those games. So I don't imagine that he's, barring an injury, is not going to put up monster numbers, be a top 5 back this week. Problem is the price tag, which is not too expensive. I mean, it's a fair price to pay for him, but again, I'd rather get all the way up to Taylor or down to some of these mid guys we're talking about. So it's tricky getting Madison in. How are you feeling on that?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, he's in that range where kind of the middle where you have so many great plays that are below him, and then you have Taylor up top. So yeah, I see myself, in cash staying away from Madison, but I think he's a phenomenal tournament play for sure. We see that he is gaining some ownership, the 4th highest owned running back at 20%. Jamal Williams is the 3rd highest running back at 20.73% as well. So yeah, both these running backs in this game are coming in at very high ownership. But yeah, Madison, I think he's in play. Didn't quite get there in cash because I do have Taylor and then some of these cheap guys, but I think he's a really, really good tournament play against the Lions here.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm like you said, I'm working to get him into those tournament lineups as much as I can, just so I have that exposure. What about the passing game? What are you thinking of that? I mean, Detroit doesn't have any kind of corners here, but it's the same as the Colts. I mean, are they going to pass a lot against this team? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Jefferson is in play every single week, and especially this week against Detroit. Um, I just don't see myself getting a ton of them. But yeah, I mean, maybe we should be looking at this passing game a little bit more. But I do not have like a ton of it this week. How about you? Do you have a ton of the passing game this week? I think it's interesting. I think it's something we should consider, but I haven't been getting there all that much.
I don't have any right now, and I'm kind of questioning that a little bit just because of the soft matchup we have here and the fact that you mentioned that Madison is carrying ownership. So I think that's something I'm going to have to explore a little bit more if they're coming in. I'm looking for ownerships on some of these guys, and I don't. I mean, I see. Oh well, Jefferson is pretty highly owned. We've got him as the 4th highest owned, and then Thielen's all the way down at 20th. So yeah, I think double stacking them is a nice way to get leverage off Madison, especially with the low ownership of Thielen.
Yep, I feel that for sure. But we'll move on to the next game. We have Philly versus New York. And I'll be honest, like nothing in this game is really sticking out on either side. You know, I think Miles Sanders could be interesting at 5,200. There's just like several guys that I like more than him. Anything in this game that you like? Because I'm really struggling to find a piece to talk about here.
Well, I've gone to Gardner Minshew as my cash quarterback here. We have Jalen Hurts looking. Is he officially out yet? I saw that it was pretty much all but done, but I didn't see.
Yeah, he's
Um, I
questionable, but
didn't
he's not
see.
expected to play.
Yeah, so I mean, I have Minshew in my cash right now because of that $4,000 price tag. He just allows so much to do. I fit Taylor and Cup easily, and and other pieces too that are kind of high floor, high ceiling. So I do think that they're going to lean on the running game a lot against this Jets team because we mentioned that. I mean, and I said it on the radio last night with Bob and Mike that the Jets have not only allowed the most fantasy points per game to running backs, but they've given up 21 touchdowns to them in 11 games. It's almost 2 per game that they're giving up to running backs. So Boston Scott is expected to play, which, you mentioned that Sanders was good but not great. I think the fact that he's playing makes you correct on that. I think either one of them are viable in tournaments. And if somehow Boston Scott sits, I don't know what I'm going to do. There's so many running backs. I think you almost have to play Sanders at that point too. As frustrating as Sanders' usage has been in the last couple of years, the matchup just can't get any better. So I do like Sanders, and I'm kind of ticketed for Minshew just by default at his price tag.
Yep, totally makes sense. It allows you to go up and get guys like Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Cup. I personally do not have Minshew in my cash lineup as of now. I went with Derrick Carr. I'm still able to fit all those guys in, but yeah, it definitely does make sense. 4,000. I mean, you don't need much, and I'm actually a guy that I actually like Minshew. So yep, like that call. Right now, the ownership is not on Minshew yet. He's less than 1% owned, but once we get the news that Hurts is out, you got to believe that's going to go up a lot, right?
Yeah, I would think so. And I've been asked questions. Does this make him a lock now at 4,000? And it doesn't. You can't say that a backup quarterback just getting thrust into the situation is a lock. It's a little different with backup running backs that are priced as backups, but the quarterback production is so condensed that it he don't have to play Minshew. I mean, you can pay up at quarterback and be very happy doing that. Even on DraftKings, you don't need that value. But on this slate, which I'm kind of married to the idea of both Taylor and Cup and Cash, I am going that route, I think.
Yeah, it makes sense to me for sure. Great matchup. Let's see if Minshew can get it done. Anything else in this game that sticks out to you? I think we covered it all pretty good.
Yeah, I don't really have any interest in the passing games. We don't know how Minshew will treat that situation, being different from Hurts. I think you can play Devonte Smith and Dallas Goedert, but there are other options that I like better, even in stacks. You're not stacking the Eagles, so I just don't see the need.
Yep, I agree there. Arizona, Chicago. We'll let you kick it off. What do you like in here? I guess we'll start with the Arizona side.
This is annoying. We're getting Kyler Murray back. It looks like. So I guess he's fine. I mean, before his injury, he was the QB5. And the Bears are missing pretty much their three most important defenders on this. The problem is that Arizona's wide receivers it's been so spread out to them, and now it looks like Hopkins is possibly coming back, but not fully. Like, he might be limited. So I mean, like, who is going to be the guy that Murray targets the most here? I think in GPPs, I could handle him playing him without wide receivers, but it's his ankle that was injured. I mean, are they going to run him? I don't think so. So I don't think I'm really going here that much for Arizona. Are you? Do you have anybody in this one? I mean, Connor is nice, but again, he's in that price range that I haven't gotten to him yet.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Murray questionable. I'm a little bit iffy about it. I think he's solid, but who do we stack him with? You see that $6,200 price tag of Hopkins, and it's intriguing. But like you said, he's going to be limited, so I don't know if I can get there. Yeah, I think I'm going to stay away from the most part. Even like you mentioned, James Conner, 5,900, he does stick out for sure. I do like other guys more in the range, but yeah, I do have some Connor, not in cash, but I think is a solid tournament play. So I think Connor would be the one piece I do look for on the Arizona side. And on the Chicago side, Mooney really sticks out to me. I've been playing him a lot the past couple weeks. He was, outperforming Allen Robinson, and now Allen Robinson has been out the past few weeks, and Mooney's had back-to-back 20-plus point games. And then now it looks like Goodwin is going to be out as well. So they're going to be without Robinson. They're going to be without Goodwin. So I think Mooney's, for sure going to be the guy. And it looks like, Justin Fields is going to be doubtful, which I actually think that helps out Mooney there. So, yeah, I think Mooney would be the one piece on the Chicago team that I do like quite a bit, 5,600. How about you on Chicago? What do you like in here?
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. His target share without those guys, I mean, he is with Dalton at quarterback. It's actually even better than when Fields was at quarterback. Mooney's targets and his air yards and everything. I mean, I think he's he has wide receiver one upside in this one. Um, so and plus the fact that you mentioned the guys that are out. Plus the fact that the Arizona has allowed the fewest fantasy points per game to tight end, which kind of takes Kmet off the table as well. I think we even get more looks Mooney's way, so I like him too.
Yep, for sure. Taking a look at the Mooney ownership, curious to see where he's coming at. Let me take a look. Do you see Mooney anywhere? Mooney.
It's like we can't
I don't.
find them on the ownership thing. No, I don't see.
There he
I
is.
don't see him
20th.
anywhere.
The 20th projected wide receiver at
Oh yeah, okay.
5%. I like it. I think is a pretty solid play this week. But yeah, not much for this game. I guess Mooney be the one guy that does stick out for me. Anything else we missed for this game?
No, I think he's the one piece from that team, and we kind of covered Arizona pretty well here too.
All right, sounds good. Moving on to the next game, we have the Chargers going against the Bengals. On the Bengals side, Joe Mixon really sticks out, 8,100. If I had to pick between him or Taylor, it would definitely be Taylor, but I think Mixon is in a very solid spot the past 2 weeks. I think he's combined for something crazy like 58 carries. 8,100 Mixon really does stick out. I think, you could always go to Higgins. The Chargers have given up the second least amount of DraftKings points to opposing wide receivers, but, Higgins is somebody that's always reliable to get targets, and finally had a breakout game last week. It was nice to see 8 targets, 6 receptions, 114 yards, and also a touchdown. I think Higgins is always in play. So those would be the two guys I'd look for on the Cincy side. How about you on the Cincy side, and then what are you looking for on the Charger side there?
Yeah, you nailed the Cincinnati side, and so the kind of take I'll bring to this game, which I said it on the radio last night, and this is a path that I'm going with a lot in GPPs. So it looks like we're getting massive ownership on Jonathan Taylor, and rightfully so. So I think the big way that I'm going as far as leverage goes in these GPP contests is playing Mixon and Eckler. Because they have more than the ability and the matchup to match Taylor and even outscore him. We even saw in that 5 touchdown game of Taylor's 2 weeks ago, Eckler almost matched him in that same week. So we know it can happen. And the fact that we're looking at Taylor at 27% ownership, about Mixon at 13%, and then Eckler all the way down at 4%, I think that's such a good way to gain leverage on the field in these tournaments. And you mentioned Mixon's Mixon's matchup being great. Eckler's is equally as good. Cincinnati has given up almost 8 catches per game to running backs, and Eckler leads the league in running back receiving yards and is third in catches. So I'm going heavy on those two in GPP.
Yep, definitely, especially when you take a look at the ownership, because I think these guys are way too low owned, especially Eckler. Eckler's coming in at about 4.95%, making him the 12th highest projected owned running back. And then also we see that Joe Mixon, the 7th projected highest at 14%. So yeah, like you mentioned, lots of leverage. Everybody's going to Taylor. Everybody's going to a lot of these cheap guys. And it looks like, Eckler and Mixon, who are phenomenal plays, aren't getting as much attention. So yeah, I'm with you there. Austin Eckler, 8,300. He'd be the guy I'd be looking at. And then also Keenan Allen, 7,500. I think he's somebody that I always mention. He is getting up there in price, but I think he's warranted. I think he's priced accordingly. He's good for 10 plus targets each game. So just a very safe play there, as always, each game there. But yeah, I like your call there on Eckler. I like Mixon as well. Those are the two guys I look for the most in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be a fun game, that one too. That game has stack appeal, but the running backs are the ones that I'm looking at the most.
Yep, and me for sure as well. Moving on to the next game, we have Tampa Bay going against Atlanta, and I have a ton of interest in the Tampa Bay side. Tom Brady, 7,200. The last time he played Atlanta, he did have 5 touchdowns. I think it's going to be a good time to go back to the Buccaneers this week after they kind of screwed a lot of people, including me last week, because I was very high on Chris Godwin. And he obviously did not work out with all the Patterson. Yep, Fournette went out there and had an absolute monster game. I just don't really see Fournette going out there and doing the same thing. Fournette went out there and had a 47-point game, had 8 targets, 7 receptions, 100 yards rushing as well, and then also had 4 touchdowns. So, yeah, I just don't expect that again. I think it's a great time to go back to Chris Godwin. And I think Chris Godwin, we talked about on Friday how he is probably just way too cheap at 6,600. There's no Brown. He's playing Atlanta. Give me all the Chris Godwin, and then Mike Evans, who is 100 cheaper. I'm going to play some of him as well. So yeah, very high on Tampa Bay this week. I even think I can throw some Gronk in there, 5,300. There is a tight end that I do like that is a lot cheaper, but Gronk has been looking phenomenal every time he does play. When he's healthy, he's looking really good this year. So, are you liking the same guys? Are you liking somebody else? What are you liking on the Tampa Bay side here?
No, I'm with you, and it's Brady with clean pockets is a scary thing, and Atlanta is last in sack rate, 31st in pressure rate, 30th in QB hit rate. They're not going to get to him, so he could do whatever he wants in this one. That's why he threw for 5 touchdowns, and he has that upside again. So yeah, stack him up with any of the guys you mentioned for sure, and even Fournette. Fournette can be stacked with him too. Fournette's not involved enough in the passing game, and Atlanta is vulnerable to pass catching backs.
Yep. Godwin, second highest owned wide receiver, 25%. And then we see Mike Evans, 10%, the ninth highest. So, yeah, I think Godwin's going to be a very popular play, and rightfully so. Thought he'd be a little bit lower owned because, it kind of screwed people over, but it looks like people are looking right through it. Great matchup against Atlanta, way too cheap, and I'm all over it as well.
You like any Atlanta run backs in that thing? I find myself not needing to go there. But if you did, I think the Bucks can, their pass rate over expectation is so high that they can sustain a stack even if they win, 40-0. And you don't really need that Atlanta run backs. But if you were using one, who would it be?
If I absolutely had to, it would have to be Kyle Pitts. I just don't see myself playing anybody else. I mean, Russell Gage is so inconsistent. I don't really want to play Patterson, especially at 7K against this Tampa Bay run defense. I know he has a lot of pass catching ability, but still, yeah, I guess it'd be Pitts if anything. But yeah, like you said, I don't really think you need a run back, and I'm probably not going to all that much.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that too. It'd be Pitts or Patterson, and I'd probably lean Pitts with you, but I'm not playing either one.
Yep, I feel it there. But yeah, very high on the Tampa Bay offense. Let's see what they do today against this Atlanta defense. Moving on, we have a couple more games left. Washington going against the Raiders. Yeah, on the Washington side, I think a guy that really clearly sticks out is going to be Antonio Gibson. We see that McKissick is going to be out, and Gibson is 5,700. So, I'm going to be all over Gibson this week. Last week against Seattle, 29 rushing attempts, 111 yards. We can expect, probably around the same workload here. Solid matchup against the Raiders. I just don't see how you do not play Gibson this week at this price tag.
Yeah, and I've been kind of locked in on 3 running backs for my cash with Gibson, Taylor, and then Eli Mitchell. And who we'll talk about in a minute, I'm sure. And I'm kind of, with some others that have opened up, which we'll get to, I guess, too. I'm kind of talking to myself about who goes if I need to play somebody else, and it's just not going to be Gibson. I think he's a core play for cash, just with his usage and the fact that now he should be the passing. I'm not worried about Wendell Smallwood at all. Emil did ask us about Curtis Samuel, which was actually a pretty good point. If he's active, getting involved in that run game, we saw that in Carolina, and I think that's kind of an intriguing idea for them. But even if he does, I still don't worry about Gibson's usage. With 36, 19, and 26 touches the last 3 weeks in a tremendous matchup with a way too cheap price tag, he's kind of locked and loaded for me.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And looks like Gibson's the second projected highest owned running back. So it looks like a lot of people are with us there. I think is a really good play. On the Raiders side, I've been going to Derrick Carr. this week, a lot more than I thought I would. I haven't really played a ton of Derrick Carr this year, but this matchup is just really sticking out against Washington. Derrick Carr stacks, Hunter Renfrow 5,800, and then Foster Moreau 2,700 at tight end is the tight end that I've been going to this week. So, yep, stacking up some Raiders this week and then running it back with Gibson. I think that's where I'm going to be at this week. How about you on the Raiders side? What do you like in there?
Yeah, Foster Moreau is free. I don't think you overthink that one at all. I don't care if he's, I assume in the double ups, these ownerships reflect all formats, not just one kind. So I assume in the double up formats, we're going to see him in 80, 85, 90% ownership range. So don't get cute and fall off of that. I think there is an interesting pivot off of him, which I think we'll get to in one of the next couple of games. But I mean, he had elite usage when Waller went down on Thanksgiving. So I don't really see the need to fade him. I mean, he went for 6 catches, 60 yards and a touchdown in that game. Can easily see that being viable again. That's a very reasonable projection for him this week. And even if he doesn't score that touchdown, he doesn't need to at 2,700. 6 catches for 6, even 4 for 40 is enough to pay off that price tag. So yeah, lock him in.
Yep, totally agree. He's coming in at about 20% owned, which is by far the highest projected owned tight end. It's not even close. The next highest is Kyle Pitts at about 9%. So that's very interesting. But yeah, I think he is definitely a very solid play. I think, stacking up Carr, Renfrow, Moreau is just a very cheap stack. And with that stack, it does allow me to go up and get, guys like Kupp and Taylor. So I have been going to that quite a bit this week. We'll see how that does work out. Anything else stick out to you in this game we didn't mention?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I'm not interested in the run game at all for Oakland in this one. So I think that's the condensed part of the Raiders offense that you go to. I do think, by the way, that their defense is viable, the Raiders at 2,800. I hate doing that against a player that I'm using, which I'm definitely using, Gibson. But he doesn't really affect the sack rate, and the Raiders are second in the NFL in pressure rate. So they can get a couple of sacks and turnovers in there, I think, at 2,800. That's a nice play, even if you have Gibson.
Yep, we haven't talked about defense as much, but yeah, that one does stick out. We'll talk about another one that I do like in a little bit, but yeah, I say we keep moving on though. Next game we have the Jaguars going against the Rams, and I guess one important piece of information we got to monitor is Darrell Henderson Jr. is questionable, and it looks like he plans to test out his injured thigh with a warm up prior to the start of the game. But they aren't optimistic on him playing. So if Henderson is indeed out, that's going to mean Sony Michel is going to be a pretty intriguing player, right? 4,300, Sony Michel. Henderson got hurt earlier in the year. I forget which week it was, but Sony Michel went out there, was able to get a ton of carries. He looked good. But yeah, Sony Michel 4,300. I think it's somebody we have to look at, right? I mean, especially at this price tag in the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the problem here is that we may not know until after the 1:00 games start, which is very annoying because if we know that Henderson is out before the 1:00 games, I mean, Michel is the top value on the slate, 4,300. So he's almost the minimum price with that kind of usage that he's going to get. And that good game you described was against the Bucks too, by the way, who at the time were the top rush defense, if not top 3 for sure. They've sustained that the entire year. I mean, if Henderson is out, I don't know how you don't play Michel at 4,300. He opens up even more, and he's got as much floor and ceiling as any of the other guys that we've talked about at 5,000, 6,000, even 7,000. So that's a really, really annoying situation right now, and I kind of hope we get some clarity on it before the 1:00 games start.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, but I don't know. I mean, it sounds like he's not going to play, so I think I might just take the risk here. But if he does end up playing, I mean, it could be bad because like how are you going to, pivot from that point? I mean, he's so cheap. So it's definitely a tough situation. I wish we knew more, but it looks like he's not going to play. But I have no clue what to see. But yeah, Sony
Yeah,
Michel, 4,300. Go ahead.
yeah, like you said, the problem there is if you play him and Henderson winds up playing, if you don't have other pivots, like you're gonna have to just throw in because he's 4,300. You're gonna have to throw in some rando guy in those 4 o'clock games at that price tag. And I'm just even looking right now, like who is that? And there's really nobody. I mean, Bateman is well, he's 4,900. Even that's too much. Um, Fryermuth is 4,200. I mean, I guess you can throw him into that flex spot, but I mean, he's not a cash play, so it's a it's a weird situation that it's tough to kind of figure. I guess that's not bad if you play Michelle and you have to pivot. Fryermuth isn't bad.
Yep. Not bad, not bad. But yeah, definitely a tricky situation there. And then, of course, the piece that me and you both are pretty high on this week, Cooper Cup, 9,000. And we talked about on Friday how yeah, the price is expensive, but I think this price is probably too cheap. Last week he was 9,600, and for some reason he gets a much better matchup here, and they price him down 600. And it's not like he had a bad game. 10 targets, 7 receptions, 96 yards, no touchdowns, but yeah, Cooper Cup, for me, he's almost a must-own in cash. And with all the value we've talked about this slate, it makes it so easy to get him. I'm having no problem at all getting Cooper Cup in my lineup, getting Jonathan Taylor in my lineup, even getting both of them. I'm able to do it pretty easily this week.
Yep, so am I. And I was kind of agonizing about whether I was gonna all week, and with Minshew at quarterback and Moreau at tight end. And now even the prospect of Sony Michel at running back, it's easy to do, so I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's surprisingly easy to get them in your lineup, and I'm just going to take advantage of it. Cooper Cup, number one projected wide receiver, rightfully so, 27.86%. But yeah, Sony Michel, a little bit of a risk, but I think I will be taking some shots on him for sure. Like you mentioned, pivot options. Fryermuth's not a bad option. So Sonny Michel, Cooper Cup. On the Jacksonville side, I think the tight end you were talking about to get some leverage might be O'Shaughnessy, 2,600. I think he's interesting with Dan Arnold on the IR. I'm going to be on Moreu for the most part, but don't hate some lineups with O'Shaughnessy. But outside of that, not a ton of interest in really anybody on Jacksonville. It looks like James Robinson is planning on playing 6,200. So yeah, for me it's O'Shaughnessy and not a ton else sticks out.
Yep, yeah, that was the guy. And sure, if you want in tournaments to do a direct pivot off that insane ownership of Moreau, I think O'Shaughnessy is good. He's a good play there for that. I think the chances he outscores Moreau are not the best, but if he does, you have got a huge advantage on the field there.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he did outscore him, honestly. But yeah, Shaughnessy 3% owned, the 14th projected highest owned tight end. Going Moreu and Cash, but yeah, don't mind some sprinkles of O'Shaughnessy in tournaments. But yeah, that's about it for this game, my buddy. I think the Rams side is very intriguing, and that Michelle play is very intriguing as well.
Yeah. I think after we're done here, I'm going to go and look and see what sticking Michelle in. So the question for you, well, let's talk about this at the end. Keep moving on. I got a kind of hypothetical, but let's get all the pieces first.
All right, yeah, sounds good. But yeah, it's going to be probably a tough question because there's so much value down at the running back position. It's nuts this week. But we have 2 games left. We'll talk about. We have Baltimore, Pittsburgh here. I guess we'll start on the Pittsburgh side. Yeah, I mean Johnson sticks out 6,800, and then also Freiermuth 4,200. Those would be the 2. I'm not a ton of interest. There's just so many running backs I do like more. I think he's always in play though. But yeah, Johnson's a guy that is honestly probably too cheap. I think he's somebody that's very underrated. Somebody that's getting tons and tons of targets week in and week out. 14 targets in week 12, 13 the week prior to that, 13 in week 10. Just consistently getting underrated, underpriced here. So yeah, 6,800 Deontay Johnson. Then Freiermuth has been on a roll, 4,200. I don't mind some shots on him as well. The Ravens aren't that great against the Titans. I think Freiermuth can definitely have a solid game. Eric Ebron still is on the IR as well. So yeah, Deontay Johnson for me, Freiermuth for me. Those are the two guys I'm looking at on Pittsburgh. How about you on the Pittsburgh side? Getting money like on the Baltimore side?
Yeah, I'm the same as you. And honestly, I don't understand why Deontay Johnson doesn't get priced up more than he does with the usage that he has. I mean, he's even with Ben at quarterback, he still does this every single week. And I'm not really quite sure how. But yeah, those are the two guys I for sure would be looking at. The Najee Harris, I don't know. I don't really find myself getting to him at all. But I mean, I guess against the Ravens pass rush, he's still in play with those checkdowns. Just he's priced fully for me now. As far as the Ravens go, I'm not really playing anybody here. Their wide receivers are fully healthy, so that's not really a place where you pick any one of them. And this Steelers team they get TJ Watt back, and they're just known for keeping scores low. So I don't think Lamar Jackson's price tag is worth it either. So I'm not really on any Ravens in this one either.
Yeah, I'm with you. No Ravens really stick out for me. But yeah, the Pittsburgh side is where I'm going to be more invested in. Deontay Johnson, he is coming in at the 15th projected highest owned wide receiver. And then Freiermuth coming in at the 12th projected highest owned tight end. So yeah, not a lot of people on this game in general, it looks like. But yeah, those would be the two guys I do look like. Anything else for this game? I think we covered about everything there.
Yeah, that's it. This is kind of a stay away game for me. And you don't even want the defenses either. Like, the offensive skill players are all just good enough that they could, kill any defensive fantasy, even if the game is low scoring. So this whole thing outside of Deontay Johnson and Freiermuth is kind of a stay away for me.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Last game of the slate, we have San Francisco going against Seattle. I'll let you kick this one off, starting with the San Francisco side. Yeah, lots of guys stick out. Who are you looking at here?
Yeah, so all week, Eli Mitchell has been my favorite play from a per dollar standpoint. This is going to be part of this question I ask you after we're done with this thing. I've kind of questioned myself on this as little as we've gone. So the positives with Mitchell here is he's coming off 32 touches, 168 yards, and a 70% snap share. He's facing a Seahawks defense that has given up second most fantasy points per game to running backs and 5.3 yards per carry. Trey Sermon is out, who they weren't interested in using anyway. Deebo Samuel is out, and he was getting involved in the running game too. So maybe any, of those short yardage rushing plays that went to him go to Mitchell now too. So, I mean, and then he's 6,000, which is too cheap. So everything just screams like a smash spot for him. My issue here is that JaMychal Hasty is back, which probably kills any passing game value that Mitchell would have. So you're now looking for him to completely get it done on the ground, which means he probably has to score also. So I still have him as an elite play. I just don't know that I have him as the lock that I had him early on. Where do you sit on him? And I know you like another guy in this game too, or on 49ers.
Yeah, Mitchell's a phenomenal play this week. You talked about his usage. I think, like you said, Hasty being back does hurt him a little bit, but it's so hard to ignore the matchup against Seattle. Like Seattle's run defense has been horrendous this year. One of the worst run defenses this year, actually. So yeah, I mean, if Mitchell is going to come out here and get, say 25 plus touches, he's had 27 in back-to-back games. If he gets 27 touches here against the Seattle defense, I think he's going to have a very good game. So yeah, Mitchell's somebody that definitely does stick out. He's only projected 8% owned, which is interesting. Only 13%, which does seem a little low. I thought more people would be on Mitchell here, but they're on some of these other guys down in the same range, like Antonio Gibson. He's 23 projected. Jamal Williams, he's 20, and I like both those guys quite a bit. But yeah, I like Mitchell as well. So yeah, Mitchell, he's somebody I'm going to be going to quite a bit. He's not in my cash lineup, but I do love him in tournaments for sure. And then also Brandon Ayuk is very, very interesting to me. It looks like he's finally, getting it together. And then on top of that, no Deebo Samuel. I think that's huge. Brandon Ayuk, 5,600. I like him. Great matchup against Seattle. He's coming in at the 12th projected highest owned wide receiver, and he's probably one of my favorite wide receiver plays on the slate. Price factored in and all of that. So yeah, give me Brandon Ayuk. I think Eli Mitchell and then Brandon Ayuk are the two guys I like, and I like them quite a bit. And then also George Kittle. If I'm paying up a tight end, he'd be that guy. 5,900 seems way too cheap for Kittle with no Samuel. And then also he's coming in at the 5th projected highest owned tight end, which is interesting. I would think he'd be a lot higher owned than that. But yeah, so much interest in these 49ers. It's nuts.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird to have so much interest when their top playmaker is out too. But I mean, they're running hot right now. Their offense is clicking on both the run and the pass. Seattle, I don't know if they're going to be tanking now or if they're still trying to win. They've kind of given mixed reviews on how they're treating that. But yeah, the 49ers, team total of 26, which is high for a team like them. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yep. And then on the Seattle side, nothing. I mean, yeah, nothing. Anything you like? Anything on the Seattle side? I just can't get there.
Not a thing. um, the Russell Wilson is not playing well at all, and his price tag isn't even that good right now. I mean, if he got into that like just below 6,000 range that we see some of these struggling quarterbacks get to, I think I might have a little more interest in him. But I mean, he's 6,400, which is a little bit prohibitive for his price tag and his level of play and San Francisco's pass rush. They activated Adrian Peterson, so who knows what they're doing in the running game now anymore. And he has no chemistry with DK Metcalf. All of a sudden, the guy's a dud now. I mean, of course, you're going to get him probably at almost no ownership. I'm trying to find him right now. Well, there he is. He's right below Darnell Mooney, 4%. Tyler Lockett is at 5%. I don't know. I mean, they're not priced down. That's the problem. You 6,500 and 6,700. I don't need to play those guys when Godwin is 6,600, Deontay Johnson 6,800. I don't care if the others are higher owned. I think they're better plays.
Yeah, totally agree. Just can't get there. I think like even the 49ers defense is interesting at 3K just because of how bad Russell Wilson and the Seahawks have looked. But yeah, so much interest in the 49ers side, but zero interest in the Seahawks side.
Yep, same with me. I cannot imagine what they're going to do with their running game with with those guys. I don't know, but I'm not playing any of them.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. But yeah, that's about it. You had a question you wanted to ask or something you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of talked myself through it as we were talking about San Francisco. But so assuming right now my three running backs in cash are Jonathan Taylor, Antonio Gibson, and Eli Mitchell, and they have been all week. And you mentioned that Mitchell was not in your current cash. So if I were to play Sony Michel, which seems like the sensible thing to do at this point, if they are leaning that Henderson is out, which one of those three goes? Is it Mitchell for you? I mean, I'm assuming so. If you don't have him in your lineup,
It would be Mitchell. But yeah, I think it would be for me if I had to pick three right now. It would be Jonathan Taylor, Antonio Gibson, and then Sony Michel. I think those three would be good. But yeah, Mitchell's a great play. It's hard because Mitchell's a phenomenal play. Jamal Williams a phenomenal play. I like all five of those guys, and you can only fit three in your lineup. That's the problem.
yeah. The good thing, of course, is that Mitchell also plays late, so you can kind of mess around a little bit. Like if I have Cup and Michelle in, there are ways you can come off Cup, unfortunately, if you got to get Mitchell back in your lineup if Henderson does play, but that means losing Cup, which I'm not thrilled about, but at least is a path to it.
Yeah, I think there's ways to do it for sure. But yeah, so many plays stick out this week. It should be fun making lineups. I have my cash lineup already made. I might adjust it a little bit. Got to make some tournament lineups as well. I think it's a really great week for tournaments as well with all these plays that do stick out. So any final thoughts on this slate and anything else you'd like to say?
Nope. I mean, just pay very close attention to those. We're going to get those inactive reports in probably about 20, 25 minutes or so. And, there's some big stuff we're waiting on here. So pay attention to the injury news. Jalen Hurts is not officially out yet. So watch for that. If he somehow is in, that completely changes everything because you can't use Minshew anymore and you got to pay up more at quarterback. So, which will kind of affect your entire lineup. So pay attention to that.
Yep, for sure. Always got to monitor the news there. But yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be back on Sunday, as always, at 10 o'clock. Good luck, everybody. Let's make some money. We'll talk to you very soon.